Good afternoon and welcome to the latest Family Business Masterclass from Family Business United. I'm delighted to be joined today by Guillermo Salazar from Houston in Texas, who is a long-term family business consultant. Guillermo, do you just want to get today off and running with a bit of background as to who you are and what you do?
Thanks, Paul, and thanks for inviting me. Yes, I'm a family business consultant. I've been working as a consultant for almost 20 years, working with families in business, helping them to develop their governance structures and family protocols all around the world. I've been working in Latin America mainly, but also in the US and Europe. And I've been hosting so many different cultural encounters that I think that there is a huge awareness of the concept of family business that we are going to discuss today. So thank you very much, Paul.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. And I know you travel the world a lot, and I'm sure the cultural influences will come through today. So Guillermo, the floor's all yours. I think we're going to present for about half an hour, just over half an hour, and then we'll take some questions and hopefully get some dialogue going. Any questions during the session to anything that Guillermo says, please post them in the chat box, and we'll make sure we cover off as many of them as we can this afternoon. So Guillermo, the floor's all yours.
Thank you very much. So I have a presentation here I would like to share with you. I'm going to start to share the screen right now and see. I need your confirmation, Paul, that we are watching the right screen.
I've got the FBU logo on there, Guillermo, so I think we're definitely watching the right presentation.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is to talk about how are we dealing with this situation of turbulent time that we are calling this COVID scenario, and how that we're helping families in business to basically understand the main concepts that are around this scenario where many things are different, many things are similar, but trying to understand what a family business means in the middle of working with different generations, and the concept that every generation has of the current situation is what we are going to explain today. So there is a main concept that I would like to share with you. The first one is the life expectancy that we are living nowadays. And as you can see in this graphical display of the life expectancy, right now we have around, and this is the whole planet average expectancy, we are around 73.2 years old for every one of us hoping to live in this world. The thing is that every year, the life expectancy is increasing more or less 2.5 months per year. Now, if we start to think in what is going to happen in the next years, once we go through this pandemic situation, we will see that most of the people that will be born in this century will easily know the next century, the century 22. So what does it mean in terms of our family businesses? That, for example, if you have a grandchildren today, and according to this expectancy, they are going to live more than 110 years, that means that the great-grandchildren will inherit at 85. I mean, the rate that is increasing incredibly in terms of technology helping the health to go to a longer life, it's doing to reshape our concept of what is going to happen. So neither the economy nor the family businesses are designed to make it happen. So there will be no choice but to innovate in the concept of ownership and generation replacement. That's what we're going to have in the next years to come. Once everybody is healthy after this COVID situation, we are going to see that our health will determine the next generation concept that we are going to handle in our family business. So when you talk about it, what are the feelings that come to your heart? Well, you have three options, basically. You can live with fear, you can live with doubt, or you can see this as an opportunity. That could be an excellent moment, an excellent way to understand what's going to happen with the change of paradigm. And this is basically what we are facing now. We are facing a change of paradigm. So what, or how does it work? How does a change of paradigm work? Just 92 years ago, and this is a picture I took from the Emily Davison funeral in London. I saw the movie, The Suffragettes. That's a wonderful movie. I don't know if you know it, with Meryl Streep. And this is the funeral of Emily Davison. And those were the first women that were working hard to let the women to vote in England just 92 years ago. So they were the rares of the society, because they were trying, they were trying to move ahead with a new concept in the society. So how does it work when you have a new paradigm? And if you can see in this graphic, we will see in the horizontal axis the time going and the acceptance of the new paradigm in the vertical axis. So when we start seeing the new rares appearing in the society, we will see that they will start to fight with an old paradigm, and they are trying to impose a new paradigm. After a certain time and gaining more adepts, you will see that they will be named as revolutionaries. They are the ones who have the flag of the revolution, but you still have more people dealing with old paradigms than with the new ones. Then there is a conflict phase where both forces can push and pull together, and both have the same strength and the same reason to discuss in terms of quantity of people. And then once the new paradigm starts to domain the scenario, you will have the retrogrades, and eventually you will have rares that are the people that still hold in the old paradigm. So the paradigms work in this way. And the three scenarios that we can deal with when facing this new paradigm situation is that the protagonists are the ones that lead the new paradigm, and they are the ones who see the opportunity. We will have the adapted, or the ones that feel the doubts, that are not really sure if this is the way it should be. And we will have most of them, which are the witnesses that are living with fear because they still don't get what's going on. So there is a very, I'm quoting here Sir Arthur C. Clarke, one of my favorite authors, and he said that every revolutionary idea seems to evoke three stages of reaction. They may be summed by the three phases. The first is it's completely impossible, the ones that live with fear. The second, it's possible, but it's not worth doing, the ones that live with doubt. And the third is, I said it was a good idea all along, the ones who see the opportunity. So this is always what happens in these three scenarios. The protagonist will be the ones that are the creative of change, the transgressors, innovators, and creatives. They are often wrong, but they are very resilient, and they act in the short term and have their sights set on the medium term. The adapted, they adopt the trend immediately. They make sure the change is successful before adapting it. Change is your innovation tool. They act in the medium term and have their sights set on the long term. And in the last place, we have the witnesses that will resist the change or adopt it too late. They criticize, deny the changes, affirming that all of the above was better. Change is the cause of all of your problems, and they act in the short term and have their eyes on the past. So in terms of understanding how the different generations behave on those situations, we will see that the skills that are most needed in these situations, especially for the ones that are the leaders of the change, are more typical in millennials and even more in Gen Zs. In a family business, right now we are living in a situation where more than one generation is dealing with the leadership of the family business. So what are the concepts that we usually use when we talk about different generations? So we have this classification that is the one that basically we use here in the US. We have the GI generation, the traditional silent generation, the baby boomers, the Generation X, which is the one I will say proudly I identify myself. We have the Millennials or Generation Y, and we have the Gen Z or iGen or Centennial or whatever. We still don't know what the name is exactly, but we are identifying this generation. So what is the most important thing about these people? Right now, the millennials are the ones that we can identify with this age range, 24 to 39 years old. They are the main working force right now here in the US, and most of the Western world, they are really becoming the most important working force right now. But it's not only about a generational issue, it's about a mindset shift. The mindset shift of the millennials is a global, holistic, and transversal conception of the world. You can be a millennial with 60 years old, for example. I have a partner in my business. We name him the millennial, the 60 years old millennial, because he has this mental shift. And this is the way to understand the different concepts related with the developing of the next generation. Everything related with education, personal relationships, way of leisure, and professional aspirations are always in the concept and in the mind of a millennial, especially the relationship with their bosses. And if we are in a family business, we will understand that the boss of the millennial is generally related with the parental role shift. So what are the expectations of a millennial from a boss? First of all, they want a mentor. They are not looking for a boss. They are looking for a mentor. They want an open mind boss, a sincere and personal communication, team trust. It's fundamental for them to understand how they work. Attitude and passion is something that they are really asking for a boss. Recognition. In fact, the recognition, they want it to be in both ways. The boss to recognize them, and they like to recognize the boss also. The teamwork is something that must be a milestone in every one of the steps that they take. Work-life integration, which is something that we are very eager to see nowadays. And especially they want to work in what they like. Work in what you like is one of the main reasons for them to understand that the experience of working is something very different to the job. So when preparing the next generation in turbulent time, we will need people with new skills and attitude, because the new paradigm we are living with is something that must to be assumed as a challenge, and we need people trained for running that challenge. This is a picture of, you won't believe this, what is it? This is a culinary school. Those are the new chefs that are being training right now in a culinary institute in Barcelona, in Spain. They are creating, they are not cooking. They are dealing with a creative process to understand what is their role in the society, because what they are dealing with is with the leadership that is going to run cooking, which is very different on what they are doing for cooking to feed people. So the way that they are understanding right now this concept of training, it's related with the model that we use for helping the families to train the next generation. And it's a model based on 4 circles. First of all, the next generation, to understand these new paradigms, need knowledge, which is something that you can provide in every educational program. They will need skills that will help them to deal with the situations that they are going to face every day. They will need attitudes, which is something that you can forge, but it's very related with your own personality. And they will need to understand the possibilities, everything that is related with opportunities and scenarios where they can develop their knowledge, skills, and attitudes. And we will have the future in the middle. Every time that we understand that our mission as family leaders is to think in the future of our family business, we will need to think always in the next generation. So what do these model help us to deal with. But basically what we need to do with the next generation are these points: promote critical thinking and problem-solving ability, collaborative spirit and trust-based leadership, ability to access and process available information, adaptability and speed, initiative and entrepreneurial spirit, effective oral and written communication, develop argument and opinion, and especially curiosity and imagination to innovate. So how do we do it? There is an idea that we developed in those years, trying to see if a program that was especially designed for the next generation could fit with the values and purpose of the family businesses. So we designed this 5 stages path to invite the next generation to be part of the family business as a journey of discovering, knowing, representing, contributing, and finally governing the family business. So this is a way to understand that if you want to be part of this journey, of this project, we want you to be part of this. We invite you to be part of this, but there are some challenges that we want to present to you, because we want you to be the best and especially the most responsible owner of the business that you're going to inherit someday. So here we have a concept that we always discuss with the family. The next generation, if they are going to inherit what you have right now, they're going to have power, because they are going to be owners of something that is very powerful. But eventually, what we would like to do is help them to develop authority, which is something that they have to gain by themselves. So it's not the same dealing with power and dealing with authority. They will have power, that's for sure. What we need them to have is authority. So this is the path that we have designed to let them develop their different skills to have authority. So in the first part, we create a world of discovering where do they belong to, try to shape the identity with the family business. Then with the next phase, we have the phase of knowing, going deeper on what the family business does, who are the key persons, what markets are they working with, who is the competence. Everything is related with the basic information to run a business, or at least to know how the business runs. Then we will have the phase to represent, which is now we think that you will have enough skills and knowledge to be an ambassador of the message of the family business. Then we will have the phase to contribute. And in the contribution, we understand that what you can do in helping us to develop some ideas, we can integrate and make it part of the development of the family business. And finally, we will have the phase of govern, which is a phase that we understand we will ask for the same skills that we will ask to any external member of the family business that would like to be, for example, the CEO or a member of the board of directors. And those are the real serious skills that we are expecting for the next generation. So in this path, usually we start with a large number of people, and we should finish this path with 1 or 2, or maybe 3, if we are lucky, that will be part of the leadership of the business. So for every stages pass, we will develop some KPIs that will indicate us if they already have completed the phases that we are looking for them. Usually, this is a path that could have different life stages, childhood, youth, or adulthood. You can run this program for 10 to 15 years, for example, or you can run it in 3 years. It will depend on what you have. We've been working with models like this, where there are 40 years old members that start with the discovery phase, but they run it very quickly. So the thing is that you will have to design it with a pace depending on what you have in your family business. And every one of these stages has a program that is especially designed for them to develop the four different uh, uh, skills, abilities, and possibilities and education that they need. And we have two checkpoints in this program. We have a minimum checkpoint that will be mandatory, which is the minimum mandatory checkpoint, MMC, and we will have a maximum expected checkpoint. That means once you go through the MMC, you will deserve to be an owner, because you will discover, you will know, and you will connect with the feeling of being an owner. You will have your clear identity of what does it mean being an owner. So if you want to keep on going through, you will see that we will ask you, if you want to be part of the board of directors, for example, we will ask you to have a maximum expectation checkpoint where we're going to ask you the same qualification that we are needing for the right leader of the business. So every time that you go from one part to the other, you will see that you will have like a promotion of every one of these steps. So for every one of the different knowledge, skills, attitudes, and opportunities, we can develop a program of these basic issues, but every case is different. Every case will deal with different issues. For example, in the part of knowledge, you will have your identity, technology, and context. In skills, you will manage business, manage others, or manage yourself, or whatever is needed for skills specific for this business. In attitudes, usually we work with social attitudes, professionals, and leadership. And opportunities, we try to figure out how you deal with yourself and the rest of the world. So most of these programs are also completed with a coaching program for every one of the cases that we identify that could be the leaders that can go through the end of the path. So for example, this is an example of one of the programs we developed. This is a very complex one. We can work in different levels of complexity in these cases, but this is one that is very completed with all of the instrument that we can develop for our next generation preparation. So every one of the phases is related with the different KPIs that we develop, and these arrows, these horizontal arrows that you see in the bottom, are the curricula of the different programs that we develop with the different elements. So we can work in parallel with one generation and the other generation, and trying to help them to follow to the end of the path. So according to this, we will have a next generation that we could say that is more prepared for the future. And yes, what we want to tell to the Gen X and the Boomer is, ask yourself how should be the ideal future partner. And then you can design the minimum mandatory checkpoint. On the other point, we can say, ask yourself how should be the ideal future board member. And then you can design the maximum expected checkpoint and create them. Create this next step that you need to develop. So when you have these kind of programs in your awareness of the business, this program can help you to clarify what previous generations are expecting from next generation, because this is basically what the next generations always ask you. What do they want from me? I need to know what they want from me, because every time that I am invited to be part of the family business, they just open the door and let me in, and I have to figure out what do I have to do. So with this program, we answer the main questions. We can design the path of leadership, succession conditions, especially in turbulent times, that give us a map of what to do and how to react accordingly. We can empower members of the new generations in an orderly way, integrate the firm values and culture to the family and vice versa. This is a both way program that can integrate those values from the business to the family, and especially define the family business and integrate them to the business. Facilitate multi-generational integration. Most of the programs are based on forums and meetings of multiple generations debating about the content of the program, which generates this integration. It clarifies doubts among family members about the future scenarios and how they condition the succession process. And it really helps to define a realistic succession process. It solves doubts and obstacles about the family enterprise, especially to non-family members, about the scope and impact of succession, not only in the family, but also in the business. So what kind of conflict can we help to solve every time that we try to implement a program to clarify a direction in turbulent times? But basically what we do is that we solve the expectation from both generations, the leader generation and the next generation. They are always dealing with their fears and worries, and every time that we have the opportunity to present them in an orderly way, we will have this expectation covered. We try to solve that individual agendas fit into the general program. We try to solve the conflict that it's related with the individual values that are basically related with this concept of sacrifice, wealth, work, money, liberty. Those are the typical values that are always conflicting with the values of the family business. We deal with the leadership, the inheritance, the commitment of the next generation, and the flexibility of the current generation. So we always save the best for the last, which are the in-laws. They also can find their place in a program like this. It solves what's the role that they should be playing with this one. So an example of a minimum mandatory checkpoint should be one like this. We would like to have someone who continually and permanently know the history, values, and principles of the company and respect them with pride and sense of belonging. This is the less I'm expecting for someone who's going to inherit my shares. You can estimate that you can work in a program like this for them in the post-adolescence stage. I definitely recommend not to work with adolescents in this stage. It's always a requirement. It cannot be mandatory the way that you invite them. It's always an invitation. It must be freely presented. Most of the programs are presented by members of the business. They explain the different information that they can show to the next generation. There is a milestone KPI that what we expect from them is, and after this induction program, for example, you make a report to the family council on what you learn, and every time that this happens, it's wonderful. The feedback that the next generation gives to the family, it's really amazing. The richness of the information, the feelings, and the commitment that you create with this generation developing these kind of presentations. On the other hand, we have the maximum expected checkpoint that you will find here, that it's basically what we are expecting from a leader in the business. But in the context of a family business, for example, you could say that a member of the family that is in the govern phase is a contributor engaged with the business transcendence purpose and adds value with his her recognized leadership, has a seat in the board of directors, and is someone capable of giving cohesion to the family, which is very important because it's not only based on what you can do in the business, it's also based on what you can do for the family. And that's the kind of leader we're looking for in the family business. The maturity estimated, it's over the 40s. It's always depending on the what we call the life consolidation. It should pass the board member access requirements to be invited to participate, which means that the board also must to be very clear on what they are expecting for a board member. There will be a family board access process that must be filled, and basically what we are expecting from them is that they have to behave like professionals in the leadership of the family. So this is basically, Paul, what I wanted to share with you. I would like to discuss on those ideas. Those are the ways that we are working to help families, basically to draw a map on where to go and what to do in these situations that we are all facing. And hopefully it's working for most of the cases. And I'm open to questions right now.
Yeah, well, that was really interesting, actually, and a fascinating insight into the journey that you kind of put forward to talk to the next gens. As I said before, anyone in the audience that's got some questions, then I can take them. But I'd like to just really start off with, obviously, you're talking about an aging population around the world, and obviously that's going to change from country to country. Does that mean there's going to be a lot more difficult conversations between potentially the younger generation and the potentially two older generations in terms of trying to bring on that next generation?
Well, yes. You know, basically what's the problem right now, Paul, that we live in a world where the values are so different between generations. Every time that we try to integrate the next generation, we have to be very sexy in the invitation. So it's very different on what we have a generation ago, inclusive in my generation. In fact, I come from a family business, a construction family business. I'm architect, by the way, but I become a family business consultant. But I remember when I graduated from architecture, I have to think it twice if I wanted to say to my family, I want to look for a job outside of the family business. But in the case of my parents, they have no choice. I mean, if you are going to start to work, you have to work in the family business. What we have now is that these current generations, millennials, all around the world, they can go wherever they want. They have this concept of liberty that the society doesn't punish them if they betray the family because they are not working with them. So yes, everywhere in the world is happening a phenomena that the longer that you live and the more liberty that you have is attempting to the spirit of the family business, of being a family business, because the opportunities are out there. So you have to be very intelligent to have a right invitation, because they know they are going to live longer. When I am going to inherit the shares, I mean, there is a window. I can wait for you. But if you don't let me know what are you expecting for me, where is my role in this history, I will go away. I mean, I'm free.
Yeah,
and
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. There's a lot of conversations that don't happen, and there's the conversations that do. A great question actually just coming from Russ Hayworth, actually, in terms of, obviously, we're living through a pandemic at the moment, and lots of things have been brought to the fore. Sadly, an awful lot of people are losing their lives. So there's people talking about mortality and losing parents and losing family members. So they're having conversations that they may have left too late. But the question that's really come in is, are you seeing the current pandemic affecting the rate of change? And is it more of an accelerant in some of those conversations around succession?
Yes, definitely. It's happening. In fact, it's a conversation that was hard to have, but now that we have this situation, we need to have this conversation. And depending on every case and how close have you been to a disease or a health affection, the system, the shares that you have to put on the table are always related with the succession process.
Yeah.
So yes, it's been accelerated by these situations because you are starting to think in death, which is something that you didn't want to talk about. Now that you are seeing the death closer, okay, let's talk about this because there are things that we need to define before something happens. So definitely, yeah.
And kind of related to that, Guillermo, do you find that some of the conversations that you're having, the pandemic has led to people taking a bit more of a stock take in terms of what their expectations are and their thought process are, being able to reflect on what's important to them as a family and the values in terms of we've all been locked down at certain times and not been able to get that freedom that you talk about quite freely. So do you think that's had an implication in a positive way to some of these conversations because it's drawn them together and actually let them take time, reflect, take stock and make some difficult decisions?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, not only the pandemic, the lockdown, there are some families that because of the lockdown, they've been separated physically and the opportunities to gather and discuss are now more precious than ever. So when we recreate those gatherings via Zoom or via whatever device you have, we see that people are starting to recreate the feeling that they are missing in those conversations. Yeah. So every time that we have these family meetings, now that it's so precious right now. I mean, the time that we can spend together has increased its value. And these talks are so fundamental that we don't lose time now. I remember working with the same family before the pandemic situation. We could spend a complete evening talking and talking and talking. Now we only have 1 hour because it's the time that we have decided to have, and we go straight forward to the concept. And of course, I would say it's a good challenge, but now the solutions are arising in an orderly way that we didn't have before this pandemic. This pandemic is showing us a lot of things, especially to value our relationship, the time that we spend together, and the time that we share our thoughts.
It's interesting you say that. I mean, I went to see my mum yesterday for the first time in 3 months, and she's in her 80s. And actually, it was just delightful to see the smile on her face when you walked in the door. How do you think those conversations? Do you think they translate culturally? So how would a family, for example, in Southeast Asia, reflect on the situation compared to maybe North America versus the Western European? Are there cultural differences?
A lot, yes. And it's basically, again, it's related with the concept of every generation has of these different values. I mean, the current generation in leadership, the values related with liberty, wealth, work, family, are so different to these new generations, and they so move fear to express them, especially for the next generation. Yeah. For example, in Asian and African culture, the myth of the leader, which is most of the cases related with the patriarch that leads the family business, it's something that I have witnessed that it's starting to change in terms of, okay, let's see if we can introduce these Western concepts of liberty and millennials and see if that is something that could work. But it's very hard to deal with a social barrier that it's trying to keep the values that they've been working with centuries, and these next generations still they are trying to do it because I mean they love their family, but the way that they are trying to introduce a new concept, it's very hard, and in those cultures they are still struggling with trying to understand this concept that we talk about, education, leisure, and of the millennials, because they are millennials, but it's tougher for them to introduce those concepts.
Yeah, I mean, you're trying obviously to balance history and heritage and respect with innovation and modern ways of working. So there's a natural kind of conflict there waiting to happen. So those conversations must be difficult and difficult to have with your parents and grandparents, I guess.
Yeah, and especially because you are talking about family businesses, and the only way, the only way to move ahead and think in the future is listening to the millennials. And I'm sorry, that's the only truth. I mean, they are closer to the future than you and me.
Yeah.
And they know what's going on. When you see the statistics of how do they feel with all of these pandemic situations, they feel better than you and me because they are more used to changes. They are more aware of that this is a world that is constantly changing. And we are more, and Gen X and Boomers, we are more conservative, we are older, and we don't like things changing so quickly. They are used to that. And Gen Z, I mean, they love what's going on. So yes, and the I mean, it's more probably we will have a future like these situations that we are living as a normal situation. So yes, they are more prepared than us. And
yeah, they'll respond. They will respond probably more quickly to the new normal.
Yeah, yeah. So it's hard to convince a patriarch of, okay, this is a new reality. I don't like
no. That's why you do what you do and I do what I do. You talked in terms of 5 stages of governance. So the next generation journey starts off with discovery and knowledge and comes through to kind of the governing thing. Which of those 5 stages do you think are the most important?
I will say that once you have the minimum mandatory checkpoint, you can feel that you have done your work. Mm-hmm. So the next one is the hardest one, because now that they are really free to decide if you want to go on, and being an ambassador, it's very important. This is the phase that I like most, because this is where you freely decide if you really want to be in this family business or you want to go away. Because as mandatory is the checkpoint, everybody has to do it. Whatever you want or not, you're invited. But this is an invitation with I put my face of you have to come, and it's very easy to do. I mean, everybody wants to do that. But once you have passed this checkpoint, the next one, when you really have to demonstrate the rest of the world that you are part of this history because you are connected emotionally with this history, that's the best part. And not everyone has the commitment to do so. For example, we have a client in Spain. They work with in a copper factory, and they have been processing coppers for 200 years, and they built this museum of copper in Barcelona. So the checkpoint for you to, if you are part of the family business and you want to graduate of ambassador, the KPI is that you have to be the museum guide, and you have to convince the people once you tell the story of the family business, and you have to make them cry. I mean, they have to make them cheer, because this is a wonderful history. And once you are capable of telling the story from the heart and connect with the public, that's the part when you say, this guy is one of us. So that's the most beautiful part of doing an ambassador. Then you will have the next steps that you can develop in a more technical way, but this one is emotionally connected with the family business.
Yeah. Really interesting question, actually, just coming from Murray Mickle up in Scotland, around the governance framework in terms of your the kind of the levels, the benchmarks, and then also the KPIs. So how do you make them? We're talking a lot about kind of the management, succession, and leadership. So are they equally as relevant? The question is, are they equally as relevant to ownership succession, and how do you develop responsible business owners going forward?
Well, we have to work hard with the current generation that leads the family business, because we have to go deep and understand the values that they share as a family business. So we need to look for what they really want, what is their shared dream, what are they expecting as individuals and family group, and then we will understand exactly where do they want to go. because this design must be aligned with the shared dream. And the only way to understand the shared dream is to recreate the storytelling of the family, understand where are these values founded in their history, and then project the future with this information. And once you have the whole timeline, future, present, and past, and the values that support them, then you are ready to create a design of this. So this is the most important part. I think that basically everything is related with the storytelling. Once you understand what are your connection with the feeling that really support your commitment with the business, once you understand where does it come from, then you will be able to design something that is sustainable and something that can move along by itself almost. But until you don't have that information, it's very hard to create something like that. Not even one KPI.
It's really interesting. I spend a lot of time traveling around the UK and in the past more around the world, but history and heritage are really important, and the storytelling that you allude to is something that's really, really important to me. But I think what I'm hearing is actually the history, and the thing I would say is that history and heritage are really important, but they're not going to guarantee your future. But you're taking that heritage and that history and you're molding it with the values and the purpose to create a shared vision, and that you're then using as a pillar to help grow the next generation and bring the generations together.
Absolutely, yeah, and it has a neurological explanation. When you imagine the future, you use information that you have of your past. Mm-hmm. So once you make conscious the unconscious of your history through the storytelling, when you understand what's your role in this history, you have all the information required to create a shared dream. And only in that moment, because the identity that you have with the history is the material that you need to create a dream. And once you have all of the elements and all the people sharing the same information, you can build a dream of the future. And that's a way that if you have, there are experiments that they do with people that have lost their memory by accident, for example. And if you ask them, what are you going to do tomorrow? They cannot tell you. They don't, because they don't know where they come from. The connection of the neurons don't help them to recreate what's going on, what's going to happen tomorrow or in 1 year or 2 years, because they don't know where they come from. So it's exactly the same thing.
So I guess one of the positives to come out of the current pandemic is very much that families can look at their story and they can actually get their narrative and they can start talking about it in a way that actually starts to have those conversations with the next generation and the younger next gens. They understand what their grandparents and great-grandparents have been through.
Yeah. Yes, because this is a ritual that we have lost. I mean, whenever you talk about history, you can imagine where does it come from. It's the human nature to be around the fire and telling history and gathering around the experiences and why do you do that? I mean, why do you want to have a business? Why don't you have a job? What makes you decide that? Weren't you didn't have you fear, Daddy? I mean, those are the questions. Those are the history that you want to hear, and this is the only way. And once you have that, okay, you can say, okay, we are sharing this feeling, we are sharing this dream. We have a business, we can make money, we can create a wellness. Let's do it together. And if you have any problem, you can come here and ask me, because I've been being honest with you. You have the liberty to go everywhere. You can earn more money if you want, but I want you to be part of this because I know we can create it together. And this is how, okay, let's do it. Okay, how do we do it? Okay, so let's design a program that this engagement and these commitments are going to help us, you and me, to create together. But we need to go step by step, and we need to check that we are doing what we have to do.
Yeah. Do you think your framework, in terms of the framework for developing the next gen in any family business, do you think it's equally as applicable to a small family firm to a large one in terms of the principles?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, what I have shown here is, I would say, is one of the most complicated cases we've been working with. This is a fourth generation, and the 3 generations are living in the same company. So it really it really helps complex situations, but all the essentials concepts are developed from a two-generation family business. I mean, you can do this. It's exactly the same. I mean, it's the same concept. You need, first of all, you need to discover your identity. Then we need your commitment that you really are part of this. And once you have this commitment, okay, show me, because I want you to develop authority on what you are doing. You are going to have power. I want you to develop authority. There is only one way to develop authority. I'm going to help you, but this is something that you have to do. So yes, and it's not related with the complexity of the family business. It's the same thing.
And again, it's irrespective of sector, size, and as you said, culture. There are cultural influences, but it's the same process that you would go through with any family around the world.
Yes. Yes.
And from your perspective, Glenn, I know you've got a strong background in terms of the whole governance of family firms. It's almost professionalizing the family business in terms of a framework for developing a next generation, the same way as maybe a big four accountancy or law firm would do the same thing as a development program, but it's putting a formal program in place for a family firm.
I mean, this kind of responsibilities of the family in terms of education are not academical responsibility. I mean, if the next generation wants to, I don't know, study in the university, whatever career they want, they must do that. Mm-hmm. But what we develop here is all of these things that they are not going to teach them there in the university. I want you to learn here with me. And when you design this program, for example, related with knowledge, as I mentioned, let me share this one. Related with knowledge, we have this identity knowledge, technology knowledge, context knowledge. It's all related with the family business. Mm-hmm. And basically, this is something that the employees of the business tell the next generation. They explain that thing. And about the skills, this managed business, you can buy educational programs to complement what you have learned in the university online. I mean, there are programs by universities that you can buy and courses and everything related with the skills that you need. I mean, the market of education is so big that you can buy it in jail. But attitudes, it's something that you have to design in-house. So what kind of attitudes you need? I need people that understand, for example, the value of patience. How do you teach patience, for example? This is something that we have to design, and we have done this with our families. We have to develop, for example, creativity. Do they teach you creativity at the university? Not most of the university I know they teach. So there are things that you have to create by yourself. If you don't know how, you can hire people to help you, and the rest of the contents are things that must to be aligned with the values and the goals that you want to create for the next generation.
It's really interesting. Is there a stage, if you were to be really honest with us, is there a stage in the process that's going to be the sticking point, or the point in the process that's most likely to go wrong? Is there a kind of a flash point that you can get so far through a process that a family just kind of, it's not going to work? And can you recognize that? What are the kind of the triggers?
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, and I have to say that most of the cases I've seen, it's all related with the relationship of the siblings of the current generation. When we have these situations of I don't know how to explain that. Usually jealously, because if my son or my daughter is the one that we have seen that he can go further and reach the final stage, and yours don't. It creates noise in the process that we have to solve, but at the level of the siblings, not at the level of the next generation. I mean, there are always issues related with the relationship of the fraternal level of relationship that must to be solved, preferably before doing something like this. And this can be solved during the shared dream process. But I mean, there is no guarantee. You will always find new challenges through the process. But most of those, tough situations are related with those issues.
So it's a fascinating conversation. How do you measure success? What does success look like for you when you've worked with a family? What is success?
I don't know. I don't know. I have to be honest. What we do measure, and I have to be very honest with you, Paul. I don't know exactly what success is. It's very hard. There are so many quotes in Google when you put success, but for us, it's more important to measure the level of satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is more. I mean, I believe more that than telling me we are a successful family business. Who said that you are? But when you say we are satisfied with what we are doing, that's something that I can believe in.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't, basically, I don't use that concept of success. I think it's very hard to understand that.
And do you think, just in terms of the openness of the next generation coming through, do you think they're ready to take the challenge? Are they really ready to step up and actually go through a process and take the helm?
We have to ask them if they want. And I have to say, I'm sad that we have to ask them because sometimes there are answers that you don't want to listen to. But yes, I mean, it's amazing when you start listening to the next generation, what they think, what they feel, what they want, the feedback that they transmit, the energy that they have, that can go in every direction. If we are able to help them to focus that, we can do amazing things. But first of all, you have to listen to them, and once you open the Pandora box of some young feelings, you will find everything. So in some cases, yes. I mean, if you want to make this integration successful, at least with a high level of satisfaction, you need liberty. You need them to make it freely, and you will find ones that they want to do, others they don't want to, but at least make them do the MMC, the minimum mandatory checkpoint. At least I need them to, for once you have that and liberty start to make it works, things are going to move better.
Well, and on that note, Guillermo, I think we should draw it to a close. I think it's been fascinating to listen to you, and the work that you do with the next gen is sensational in terms of bringing it to the table and actually helping people have those conversations and listening to them. So I applaud you for the work that you're doing. I wish you all the success for the future, and look forward to catching up with you soon. And just thank you very much for your time today, and thank you for sharing it with Family Business United as openly as you have done today, Guillermo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul, for the invitation. Goodbye.